Well, the chat before the season started was on the new interpretation of the Scrum laws and the application of a new part of it. Some teams are doing well, Lawrence, some teams aren't doing so well. The same rules apply to all of them. Why is it going right for some and wrong for others?
Yeah, I think we just got to that stage 5-6 games into the season where we start to look at the scrums. The scrum doesn't actually start until the ball's put in, and the referee determines when the ball's put in. So what we're looking at is this sort of preliminary engagement. I think what's really important, I mean, neither of us have played under the new laws. You two both have. You know, Craig, you know, how's it been going really with the new laws? Are you optimistic?
Yeah, I think it's a positive move. Obviously, the hit's been taken out, so you're relying on more just keeping your body shape and really keeping that pressure on the opposition. So yeah, it's a positive move, and obviously it's gonna have a few teething problems, but I'm sure it'll work itself out. So
there's been less collapse scrums, that's for sure. But what we're going to really look at is that initial hit, which is, and we've got the two packs here together, and looking really at what I'd like you to talk about is the role of the tight head, which has now become much more significant, and then we'll look at perhaps the role of the loose head as well. So if we could get the packs together, and Craig, you know, just talk us through really the height now that we're talking about that preliminary engagement and the role of the tight head. There's this guy on the right-hand side.
Yeah, so as a tight head, you really want to have a really flat back and a solid platform to really and throw yourself into the scrum. And it's maintaining that height and that shape. So obviously you're reliant then on your back row players and your second rows. So as an 8, you're a collective and you're really trying to push yourself through that tight head.
So what we've really noticed in the opening 5 or 6 weeks of the Premiership, for sure, is that the squads that have got the strong tight heads, the squads that have got strength in depth here, the Saracens, the Leicesters of this world, are really being able to play off scrum ball. And if we run some clips that we've highlighted of both those teams, you know, Craig, what we're saying really is if they've got that strong tight head, they can really dominate that scrum.
Yeah, especially using the hookers as well, and attacking that loose head and hitting him sort of down and keeping that pressure on and keeping it down. Then you see the dominant tight heads.
And obviously, Luke, from your point of view, you're now having to strike the ball, so you're even more reliant on the tight head to look after you as you take your feet off the floor.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, it's new to hook the ball, so it's really key on the tight head to stay as low as possible. But now that gives the emphasis on the loose head to try and raise the tight head more, and that will cause difficulties.
Quite interesting, the likes of Saracens that brought in Graham Dorr, obviously England's famous hooker, and really worked on both of their hookers, Jamie George and Sculpt Bricks, working on that hooking of the ball. So that's you know, if you've got good you know, from the tight head's point of view. Let's have a look at it from the loose head's point of view. We can bring our scrum back in here and just talk us through how you would attack a scrum from the loose head.
So where are you looking to break this team up? Because as we said, we talked about the good. Let's look at the bad. Where can it go wrong, and how can you disrupt these boys?
So as I said, for a tight head, you're really trying to keep that shape and trying to keep low. But for a loose head, you're trying to do the opposite. So you're trying to get really deep on the tight head and trying to get in an awkward position so you can really flick him up and sort of put him off balance. And really, the majority of the scrum comes through the tight head. So if he's low and deep on you, then he'll obviously get a really good hit on you and then push through.
So where would you, if you're looking at this as your opposition, where are you looking to attack?
It's really deep in the chest there. And then, likewise, if it's their scrum then, and maybe they're looking to come on maybe the outside, they'll attack this sort of V. So they'll all come through there, working again in tandem with the hooker and the tight head coming through, and as well as keeping square, then they're working through there.
It's quite interesting you should say that, because some of the Premiership teams where they've got strong loose heads and where the tight head perhaps gets himself in an awkward position are able to be attacked because it's not so much about the hit. So if we run the clip of Gloucester, we mentioned, I hate mentioning one single scrum, look at the tight head there just popping out, because now, unlike the old laws where it was all about the hit, you know, if a tight head doesn't quite get the hit, then the loose head really can attack him, can't he?
Yeah, we use it quite a lot at the Chiefs, you know, really attack with our loose heads. And work on our tightness coming through, so it's really positive for us.
And what you see is the pressure coming through as well. It's not an out-and-out hit, sharp. It's build pressure. Now, of course, we're talking about how it's affecting the Premiership. It's affecting you guys as well. How are you finding it? Are you finding it very different from last season?
It is different, but we found it a positive, bit of a bonus. We were shorter side, so we were able to get a lot lower, and not having the hit means you're never on the back foot. You've got a good few seconds to set your scrum, get in the right position and really power it through.
Now, these guys are saying that tight heads now are even more important, so you might be able to up your expenses for Crowbridge.
So, yeah.
Never that. And what about you as a hooker?
Yeah, well, obviously we're having to strike the ball, so it's leaving us vulnerable to begin with, obviously. But as a tight head said, because we're a shorter team, we've got a couple of seconds to set ourselves, get a bit nicer. It's just working well for us.
Talking about a shorter team, I assume he's talking about you.
Yeah.
And you're the loose head. Life has changed for you a bit, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I've only got little arms like a T-Rex, as I keep getting told. So when I'm binding, or if you don't get your feet right the first time, you have got a couple of seconds to rearrange yourself because you haven't got that big hit, and make sure you're in a proper position to work with, like the hooker, as I said, to really concentrate on the tight head and really get some pressure going through them.
Well, we're talking about short and deformed. So, Austin,